Tonight we're at the Banfield Center for the Arts in Fridley, Minnesota with Kevin Swanson, ghost hunter extraordinaire.
It's going to be a fun evening with the thunderstorm and the power going out. We couldn't ask for anything better for an investigation. We come in peace with only good intentions in our heart. We hope that you have good intentions as well. Don't be afraid. We're not here to hurt you. We just want to communicate with you.
I'm very interested in the paranormal and the supernatural, but I've never actually had my own experience, and I think that's a big part of wanting to make art about it, sort of using my imagination. I like to draw on other people's stories and sightings and myths and legends to kind of create that transcendent moment. Paranormal art wouldn't, for me, just be art that's about paranormal subjects. I think this delves much more into the realm of like the uncanny. My artwork is not just about trying to illustrate a story or a sighting, but it's trying to capture that feeling of the unknown. One of the first things that, the tools I fell in love with are the grid lights, and then in theory, if anything in the visual spectrum like moved between us and the lights, then it would show up, either get a photo or just see that something had broken the grid. So they're not super scientific, but as a visual artist, I think there's a lot to be said for style points, so this rate tie for me. In a historical context, if you want to think about art, has traditionally served as that medium between us and the unknown. If you go all the way back to the first artists painting caves in France, they were trying to converse with like an unknown and an other. Art was sort of that transcendent medium for us to talk to the other side and the other world. So I feel like this paranormal art is sort of a effort to recreate that sacred space and that transcendent moment.
Good evening, welcome back to Darkness Radio. For the next 2 hours, we've got some great topics lined up for you. Living Among Sasquatch, a primer with our guest Dave Gibson, and a little later on in the show, Mark Nesbitt and Patty Wilson join us. They're the authors of the book Cursed in Pennsylvania, Stories of the Damned in the Keystone State.
I got interested in the paranormal back in like 2009 and 2010. I was in a graduate program, and I remember finding a podcast, Minnesota-based, and it was called Darkness Radio. They were talking about Bigfoot and UFOs and metaphysics, and I started listening to that show very regularly while I painted. I was a traditional landscape painter, and then slowly while I was working, a little Bigfoot would show up in the corner of a landscape, and then a UFO, and then pretty soon it was much more about the UFO or the Bigfoot than it was about a landscape. When I want to depict something that I haven't seen personally from a paranormal interview or a local legend, I do a lot of research beforehand. I'll read books or find out sightings online. I've been able mostly to go to the actual locations. I'll take a lot of photos. Sometimes I'll bring home rocks or sticks or something. Once I've taken in that info, I can kind of start to form an idea or process. Very rarely is it like an inspirational, like, this is what I'm doing. A big part of my paranormal art project started in 2015. I got a Minnesota State Arts Board grant, and that allowed me to really sit down and not only research what paranormal and supernatural stories were in Minnesota, but actually go to those places and kind of research them myself, kind of like take my own photos and figure out what I wanted to do and what art I wanted to make based on those locations. We have a rich history of paranormal and supernatural stories, from native myths and legends to the earliest white settlers. So I just wanted to sort of highlight those and really explore a lot of our history that is just like right under our noses. One of the first things I did when I was awarded my grant project was to contact Chad Lewis. He's a very famous upper Midwestern paranormal author. And he writes these great road guides to not only mysterious places and unusual sightings, but he actually gives like a great guide to like going there and what you should expect to see. From Native American mysteries and myths like the Big Mound up near International Falls, all the way down to Lake City, Minnesota. You'll find Peppy, a lake monster. There's also several areas, especially northern Minnesota, where there's been Bigfoot sightings. One of my favorite areas is the Duluth Lake Superior region, from ghost ships to haunted wrecks to spirits that have come out of the lake. Being on site in those different locations really influenced like what art came out of it and what I wanted to do and the art I wanted to make based on those stories. I think the feeling that I'm looking for with the Paranormal Art Project is sort of like an epiphany. I'm really looking for that little glimpse of insight into like the greater world at large. And I feel the paranormal is just that window into what's out there that we don't know.